Listen to me. If there was a wise man who would ever think of this, they would say in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. For I am the man himself.
Ladies and gentlemen, after watching this week's episode of SmackDown, here I am once again, sitting here just wondering, what is going on? Like, is it just me? Again, there's so many things that are like, I don't know where to describe it. So, this past week on my Raw review, I briefly talked about how there's some weird mojo going on in wrestling now. Like, where do we stand as wrestling fans? Again, are people losing faith in Triple H? Are people, not, and things are great? I just still... Something's going on. Because, like, something's just, like... Hold on. I had nails trying to fix there for a second. I know how to describe it. Like, I guess, like, the payoffs are weak. Or, like, things are going in a completely different direction than I thought it was. And I don't know. It's just stuff I'm just scratching. I'm like, what is this? Like, it's starting to feel like they're shuffling some things that they shouldn't be shuffling right now. Like, on this week's episode of SmackDown, Sami Zayn all of a sudden is officially on the SmackDown roster. And that just feels very off with the story that's going on here with Sami Zayn. And basically now saying, I'm okay with not fighting for the world title right now. I'm going to go after another title I haven't had yet or whatnot. And to me, I feel like that's going to hurt him in the long run, if they still want him to be a favorite to win the upcoming 2026 Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. Which, if there's any place to give Sami Zayn a Royal Rumble victory, it would either be in Montreal or Saudi Arabia. Especially with how popular he is over in Saudi Arabia. That would be great for him, if I'm being honest. But I now have some concerns because of this abrupt move on the SmackDown. And how I'm not a fan of what the heck that they're even trying to do here with him and Solo. And just other things. Like, I'm not going to lie. This episode of SmackDown was not that good. Not that good. I mean, the only thing I can say I really know is like, okay, this has got my attention, is the stuff with Carmelo Hayes and The Miz. Miz is back after being gone for a while with a movie or something filming, I guess. And he's still trying to, take Carmelo Hayes under his wing, but make him more into him, when it's obvious Carmelo Hayes is showing desires for another direction. Like, that was interesting. Everything else, from Drew McIntyre basically saying the reason why him and Cody are fighting is because he hit me first, so I hit him back. Bland stuff there. Tiffany Stratton's probably going to fight either Nia Jax or Jade Cargill again. Like, what's up with that? Giulia also just seems very dull as women's U.S. champion right now. This show felt like a house show. If I'm being honest, I felt like I was watching a house show. Sure, wrestling quality was good, not a bad match, but the storytelling on this show, especially this week, I'm kind of like, if I was already confused before since SummerSlam, since the fallout from that, I'm even more confused now. Especially with the stuff with Sami Zayn, which we're going to get into right away. Hello guys, I introduced myself at the beginning. This is the Club with the Man 1993, and this is my review of this week's episode of SmackDown. The August 15th, 2025 edition took place last night in Boston, Massachusetts, at the TD Garden. There was no John Cena on the show, no Cody Rhodes, no Brock Lesnar, no Logan Paul. None of those the big names. Bunch of other guys. And yeah, like I said, I wasn't really the biggest fan of this episode of SmackDown. Like I said, the best thing, in my opinion, again, was the stuff with Carmelo Hayes and The Miz. Everything else left me feeling nah. Not gonna lie. Definitely one of the weaker shows of the year for WWE, if I had to say. So, the show opened up with the MFTs coming out. And Sikoa gets on the microphone and just talks some trash and whatnot. He mentions how they stomped out Jimmy Uso and they stomped out Jacob Fatu. And although Sami beat him last week on SmackDown, they went to Raw and decided to stomp him out again. Which I, again, just said last week, like, you know, okay, if you wanted to have him on the show, they were in Montreal. Of course, he's from Montreal. This person's going to get a big pop. So I get why he was on the show last week. But then when they had MFTs go to Raw and cost Sami his match with Rusev, I was like, why are we doing this here? So Sami Zayn then comes out here on SmackDown. He says that he's just here to talk. Sami asks him if he actually wants to talk or not, and Solo waves the rest of the MFTs out of the ring. And Sami says, you've all heard me talk about becoming world champion, and I would have been in that fatal 4-way probably if I would have beaten Rusev on Raw this week if it wasn't for you. He says that he realizes there's so many other things he hasn't done to WWE, and one of them is he's never won the U.S. title. And I'm like, why would you reduce yourself when you're on a quest right now for the world title, and now you're going after the U.S. title? And Solo's like, not going to happen anytime soon, and they basically start beating down on him. Jimmy Uso and Jacob Fatu make the save, and it sets up for the main event at the end of the night. I don't like this. I don't like this. Well, first off, why is Sami Zayn on SmackDown? He still is part of an integral story on Raw. Yes, maybe this gives him something fresh, some fresh opponents to do, and maybe he'll win the Rumble and he'll still go after Seth at WrestleMania, as I predicted, as I felt like they set up right after WrestleMania, teased the long-term idea of doing Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn at WrestleMania next year. That would be honestly a hell of a match. I mean, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn could be a hell of a match at WrestleMania if they want to go that route instead. That could work. But it just felt like he was in the story on Raw. Now he just gets pulled from it to go to SmackDown to feud for the U.S. title. And here's why this bothers me. Because I've been mentioning this a lot lately, especially when he feuded with, just got done feuding with Karrion Kross. Sami Zayn is a guy that, first off, has already conquered the mid-cards. So him winning the U.S. title just gets him one step closer to being a Grand Slam champion. Not going to do anything for him personally if he wins the U.S. title. But Sami Zayn is a guy, he's excellent at playing the underdog. And I feel like he's getting more and more wins, and he's not feeling like an underdog anymore. Even on this show, too. The main event, which was the 6-man tag with Jacob, Jimmy, and Sami versus Solo, Tongaloa, and JC Mateo. First off, Sami Zayn pinned Solo Sikoa again. Again, I don't like champions that keep getting pinned except for in title matches. I don't like that. Again, that's what I keep saying. I mean, the rest of the MFTs, don't get me wrong, are doing good, but Solo in his matches loses unless it's a title match. That's old pre-Triple H booking. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And again, if you have Sami keep winning, which maybe him pinning Solo twice now. When they do have the match for the U.S. title, maybe Sami will lose that. Probably. I don't know. But it still doesn't make Solo look like a good champion. But my point is if you try to get him involved with a mid-card title before wrestling for the world title at Mania next year, that's not going to make it as compelling. Because again, he's not playing the underdog anymore. He's getting wins. He's not doing that struggle. That's going to take interest away from the story. It's like you want to give the fans like that doubt that although Sami puts on phenomenal matches, he may not be able to win the big one. That's why him winning the NXT Championship at NXT worked so good. Because they booked it to a point where he was getting over through the loss, but it was at a point where it's like, okay, it's like a now or never win now. And when he capitalizes and wins it, it's a huge moment. Again, it was the same thing that happened with Hangman Adam Page winning his first world title in AEW. I'm just saying. But now you have him winning, and now he's fighting for a mid-card title. Again, that's going to hurt the interest. Again, I don't like that. But that's just me. And I already talked about the main event. Again, it was fine. Although there was this weird segment beforehand where Jacob's like, I don't know you, Sami. I do things on my own. At the end of the night, he's like, okay, we're cool and whatnot. Okay, like that. Like I said, that main event, although it was a great wrestling match, felt like it was the main event of a live event, of a house show. Just saying. So yeah, that was my biggest problem with the show is what's going on with Sami Zayn now. I don't like that. We had a backstage interview also with the Secret Hervice, and they're talking about whatever. Piper Niven's going to get a win over Alexa Bliss, and then get them one step closer to winning the women's tag titles. They have the match, and it was whatever. Alexa does win with a roll-up, even though Secret Hervice tried to get involved and cause distractions. Didn't work. Then afterwards, they just laid them out. Okay, not much to really say there that I really cared about. Then we have a backstage segment with Jade Cargill and Tiffany Stratton bickering, and Nick Aldis appreciates Cargill wanting a title shot and Stratton being a fighting champion, but there are avenues they have to go through here. Then Nia Jax rolls up and says she wants to join in and she wants to get a title shot as well. And I'm like, no offense, how many more times are you going to do Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax? Again, like the matches they've had, don't get me wrong, they've been good, but I'm over it. Seriously, you had Tiffany beat Nia in a last woman standing match. That was also, again, pretty good. Why are we still sticking with this bubble here? And Jade Cargill, of course, as well. Again, like, I'm sorry. Again, I didn't want Jade to win at SummerSlam, but I want her to at least, come out looking like she adapted something from being in a main event title match. And to me, despite the fact that they had her, have Tiffany get her foot on the ropes after hitting the Jaded, she didn't really benefit much from that match. So I don't have any interest in seeing her right now, because now it feels like, well, WWE just told you, she's not ready, and, we're going to start from scratch with her, basically, what it feels like. I don't know. And then later, Giulia had this segment with Tiffany wanting a title shot, but Mia Yim, who had taken the card that Kiana James had handed out to whoever it was last week, and she's going after Giulia for the women's U.S. title. Like, why does Giulia with the U.S. title feel like an afterthought? Like, Giulia is way too good to be an afterthought champion. Again, it's exactly what happens when Shinsuke Nakamura gets the mid-card title. It's great to see him get a championship because he's Shinsuke Nakamura, but you do nothing with them. And now you're going to tease Giulia fighting for the world title while being women's U.S. champion? Like, no offense, why does it feel like with Becky Lynch holding the women's Intercontinental title, why does that feel like the more prestige singles title in the women's division right now? Just saying. And especially Giulia with the women's U.S. title. I still think, like I said, if Chelsea Green wasn't moving up to the main event scene yet, I still think Chelsea should have had the U.S. title. They should have kept that title on Chelsea until she was moving on to the main event scene. I'm just saying. So, all that weird crap going on back there. Carmelo Hayes and Miz, or Melo Don't Miz, have a match against Fraxiom. Again, this story I'm intrigued by with Carmelo Hayes and the Miz, because Melo wants to, do some things his way, but Miz is like, no, just follow my lead and it'll all be good, basically. It's setting up for an eventual face turn for Carmelo Hayes, which I like. Like I said, as a heel, it just feels like, he's a new guy on the roster. He's cocky, he thinks he's the best, and he puts on matches to show that he's the best, but he's just not getting the results yet. I feel like, once he turns face, again, though, I don't want to put, all my money down on it, because, the payoffs really have not been that great. So maybe it won't work. I don't know. But if you tell it right and it leads to Carmelo Hayes turning face, then, and leads to him going on a good singles run, then great. Because, again, you had Carmelo Hayes drafted in the first round of a draft last year. And he's still kind of like finding his footing on the main roster. That's a little head scratching to me. But hopefully that changes here with the stuff with him and the Miz. Miz, of course, did get the victory for them, like stealing his moment with the skull crushing finale, and Carmelo basically thought he had it in the bag himself, but whatever. Then we had the Drew McIntyre segment, where Drew McIntyre was explaining why he attacked Cody Rhodes, which, again, they could, based off of their previous history. They could have also dug through the fact, still that Drew's bitterness still comes from the fact that his big WrestleMania moment in 2020 got robbed because of the pandemic. And then when he did win a title at WrestleMania 40, it got ruined by CM Punk. And also the fact that he is one of the few people to have beaten Cody Rhodes since Cody's come back. All those avenues you could have explored. And he has this segment, and all it basically was, well, he hit me, so I hit him back, and that's why we're fighting. A match that I actually am interested in? That's your story? Really? Gosh. That was just a letdown there. MFTs are teasing getting involved in the tag title division. Like I said, I don't care what they're doing with Solo right now, but if the rest of the MFTs keep winning, fine by me, but they're going to be involved in the tag scene. We'll see how that goes. DIY and Street Profits had another good match. Candice LeRae and B-Fab also got involved in there as well. I'm surprised they didn't have like a 6-person mixed tag match, but that's what they did instead. But the Street Profits do get the victory, so that does kind of get them a little bit of an edge in an eventual tag title shot. Motor City Machine Guns, though, are backstage, and then they get a match set up for next week against Melo Don't Miz. Probably going to put over Melo Don't Miz to give them, some leeway to get a tag title shot before they break up. Who knows? But probably that. We also got a recap of Logan Paul and John Cena's confrontation last week that leads to a match at Clash in Paris. Whatever. Then they had R-Truth backstage. And he is happy that his childhood hero, John Cena's back. Being all goofy R-Truth, which again, I know bothers us because he had him be serious, then Cena turned back to me in the face, now he's goofy Truth again. But they did have Aleister Black come out of nowhere and say, asks Truth to imagine if he were this excited about his other friend Damian Priest. And basically he's like, I came looking for Ron Killing, it's not R-Truth. And then Truth gets in his face and says he'll see him next week. Which, I see that and I'm like, why can't they keep Truth serious right now? So, I don't get it. And then it was the main events that happened before. The Faces won, and that's the show. Yeah, that's the show. Not much really at all to go off of that. I gave this show a C, really. Like I said, the wrestling was fine. Storytelling, it was one of those shows that it lacked storytelling so much that you could have skipped it. This was a very skippable episode of SmackDown, in my opinion. So, speaking of skipping, I'm going to skip right on out of here and go to bed. But I'm gonna get this one posted, and then I also have another video I'm going to post as well. And yeah, then I'm going to just head to bed, because I've been doing nothing but cleaning all day around my house. It's got a lot done, but I kind of just want to relax now. So thank you guys, as always, for checking out my review. Yeah, I know this wasn't one of the best shows to review for WWE this year, but hopefully they'll get out of this funk. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know what's going on right now. It just feels like something's off in storytelling, and some things are just getting just thrown around for no reason, and I'm just confused, and I don't know. Also, it did announce that on Raw this week, Naomi will be addressing her future. So we'll find out if she is in fact pregnant. Is she hurt? We'll see what happens. But we'll talk about that for Raw next week. I'm hoping maybe I do get some time and I do finally put together those, toned down graphics. And not just, just throw up the random pictures like I am right now for Raw and SmackDown. My also goal is, again, because I have had to cut back a little bit right now on some things, which is why I did downgrade my Adobe Suite subscription. My goal is hopefully sometime at the beginning of 2026, when I have something taken care of by then. I'm hoping by then I could bring back my Adobe subscription. But that could change, of course, by then. We'll have to wait and see, though. And hopefully we'll get back to the other graphics that will get After Effects and Photoshop back. But we'll see. So that's my review of SmackDown once again, guys. Again, I gave the show a C. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. And your thoughts also about the lack of storytelling WWE is kind of... And confusing directions they're going right now. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Leave your guys' thoughts again down in the comment section below. And slap a like on the video. And subscribe for more content on my channel. Follow me on Twitter as well, The Club of the Man 93. And on TikTok and on Instagram at The Club of the Man 1993. Until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch you all later. Have a great rest of your night. And do not forget, in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. And for I am the man himself. And that is not just an opinion, my friends. That is a fact of life. Yeah!